Yeah, no, this is truly a pleasure and a treat for a friend, a colleague, a mentor to have Coach V in the room, and he looks like he's ready to go out for a workout already on us at 8 a.m. in the morning. But Coach Venerable, I say Coach V and Coach Venerable, but Stuart Venerable is he's got a lot of things. I don't want to say on his plate, but he's impacted a lot of people's lives. And when we talk about just something bigger than the score, I looked for individuals who are investing in people. And he's one of those individuals that not only does that in his family, the school he works in, but also has done that to me. And so, I want to welcome him and thank him for getting up this morning.
Hey, thank you, Coach Ferguson. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity, man.
Well, Coach, let's get right into it. Just maybe share with us a little bit about your personal purpose and then your journey to education. You're a veteran. You've worked in prisons and law enforcement, and now you're an educator as well. And so, just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to education.
Yeah, I'm from Virginia, born and raised, and straight after high school, I went into the U.S. Army. I was there for 7 years. When I got out of the Army, I started working in the correctional system, and I was working for the Department of Justice on the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I started in California, and then I transferred to Phoenix, Arizona, Leavenworth, Kansas, where I ended up retiring in Leavenworth, Kansas. And once I retired from there, that's how I ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska. We moved here October of 2012. I always tell people that we retired and I wanted to go to Florida, and my wife goes, "No, we're going to Lincoln, Nebraska." I said, "Look at any movie. Nobody retires and goes to Lincoln, Nebraska. Everybody retires and go to Florida." But she's a baby of 12, so she won that battle, and we ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, happy wife, happy life, man. You know right. How that works now. Come
you got
on,
that
now.
Right, Coach.
Well, you've got like 40 years of coaching and 10 years in high school, so the education field isn't new to you. You also you're being real modest in a lot of the things that you've done. If you're watching online or you ever get to see a picture of Coach Venerable, this man is a competitor too. He's won championships in that capacity. But I think I remember meeting you at Nebraska Wesleyan.
Yeah, that is correct.
In one of your classes. So talk about like that transition from, you talked about working at Leavenworth, being in the military, competing to, going into to teach.
Yeah, the teaching thing came at the very end. I started coaching other athletes when I was in the military. And now they have a name for that. They call you a tactical coach if you do that. When I moved to the Department of Justice, I was also coaching other law enforcement officers, firefighters, what have you, still tactical coach. Well, in Leavenworth, the military base is right next door to the federal prison. So the military wanted me to start a fitness for kids thing, and I was under the CrossFit banner. So I started CrossFit Kids there, and then I'm training soldiers in the morning before I go to work at the prison. And then when I get off from work, my wife and I were training kids. When that ended, when I retired and I moved here, for me, the logical transition was to keep training kids. So that's what I did. I started over at the Driven Academy when it was on 48th and Superior, and we were training kids. But my daughter at the time was young. And the only time you can train kids in a private setting is after school. And then I was missing all of her stuff training other people's kids. And I said, it's going really well, and I'm having an impact on these kids, but I want to have a bigger impact on more kids. And that's when one of the owners there, he said, if you want to have a bigger impact on more kids, then you have to get into the high school setting or the middle school setting where the kids are. And I'm 50 years old. I was like, I'm 50 years old. To get into the high school, I have to go back and get a teaching certificate. So 2 years at Wesleyan, teaching certificate, and that's when I started with LPS. So it was my notion that I want to have a bigger impact on a larger number of kids, and the only way to do that is get in that environment. So let me go back to college with kids that are 20 years old when I'm 50, and let me do this for 2 years so I can train kids that are in their teen years. So that's kind of how my journey went.
Well, and it's definitely, we've benefited from it. And I don't think just Lincoln Public Schools, but the greater community has benefited from it, because as I look at, my time getting to know you, and sports performance and strength conditioning has always been there, but it was kind of, you go in the weight room. My understanding when I was growing up is, hey, I want to make the weight club. And so it was lift so much, do this, squat this. And you're a student of this. And you're probably one of the most well-read individuals, and you're not an individual that comes in and says, I know it all. You're constantly you're a lifelong learner. And so tell me what sports performance has looked like in LPS and how that's changed a little bit. And you've been a huge piece of that. You transformed a culture, I'll be perfectly honest, at Lincoln High School, with a football team there. And you're at North Star now, and you work across the district working with middle school teachers. What does that look like in LPS sports performance and in strength and conditioning?
Well, I honestly have to give credit to Dr. Avey for that, because when I got here initially and I wanted to be a high school strength coach, even if it was only part-time, and I went to the district office, there was no such thing as a high school strength coach, which to me was mind-boggling, being that Boyd Epley, the icon, the living legend, started collegiate strength and conditioning right here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And for them not to have any high school strength coaches was kind of odd. It was pretty much just a football coach being in the weight room and everybody bench, squat, deadlift. When Dr. Avey came on board and he said, I want the kids to look the same at North Star as they do at Lincoln High, as they do at East, as they do at Southwest.
True.
So he said, we have to put some standards in place, and we have to start coming up with some professional development to help people get on the same sheet of music. So that's pretty much how it started for me, was Dr. Avey coming in and say, let's do this. And I was a first-year teacher, and he wanted to bring people to the table that had been teaching for 20 years. And I don't know how this is going to work, this being my first year, but he brought the right people to the table, and it worked out really, really good. So I would say, to the benefit of the student athletes and to the teachers and coaches as well, what he started, and we grabbed that ball and ran with it. It's been pretty incredible.
Well, and again, you're modest, but I'd have to say, like, your influence is seen at elementary, at middle school, at the high school level, and then also the greater community. And you mentioned something about that equity piece of what it looks like on one side of town to the other, seeing scholars develop in the same way. But one of the things I've really appreciated about you, and you mentioned it, your daughter, and Faith. And Faith is a standout scholar, multi-involved athlete over at Lincoln Pius. And talk about just the focus that you've had, not just on each and every scholar, but especially female scholars and their development.
Yeah, they were often, they being the female student athletes, were often overlooked, in my opinion. Like I said, when I got here initially, there were football coaches in the weight room, and some of the coaches felt like it was just football only workouts. And I wanted it to be more inclusive than that. I wanted the females to have the same privileges in the weight room that the males had, and I wanted people that came from not as a affluent situation to also have access to strength and conditioning. I mean, for me personally, it was always a sanctuary and the great equalizer. I figured it could be the same for all these athletes. So I never claimed to have allegiance to any one organization or any one in particular building. Wherever I work is where I'm working. I'm all in where I work, but I'm all in for the kids.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and you mentioned that. I think one thing is the impact of relationships. I have seen countless, you share on social media, and countless texts. Like, share with me just how important that is. Because you embody that.
It's hugely important. I didn't realize that. I don't think initially that the relationship can open doors, that relationships I've forged have opened doors that I couldn't open myself. And sometimes on the flip side of that, it's closed some doors that I wish would have remained open. The relationships are more important than anything I do in the weight room. So the relationship with the scholars, the relationship with the parents, the relationship with the coaches and teachers. And I would say definitely on the latter end of my career, I spend more time working on that aspect of it than I do with the strength and conditioning aspect, because I've been doing that for 40 years, but the relationship makes it or breaks it.
So, hey, Coach Venerable, like I said, I'm truly appreciative of you. That's something I don't say often enough. But how can people, if they want to get in touch with you, get some advice and see, things that they need to be doing, or, get some information for their kids, just kind of put out how they can follow you a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Coach Venable. Twitter, Coach Venable, the number 1. And also on Facebook, I'm under just Stuart Venable. So they can find me on social media. They can DM me. I work at LPS, so svenable@lps.org. They can reach out anytime, Coach.
Awesome, Coach V. I like to say he's a bad man. So thanks, Coach V. I really appreciate your time, and a shout out to Faith. You know, I have a favorite athlete. That's my daughter, but she's one of those ones that you can just really get behind. So good luck to her.
Yeah,
so we'll be back with our next segment with 2 more guests and with Bigger Than the Final Score.